AstraZeneca vaccines require 2 doses to be fully effective. But the former UK Prime Minister said his idea would speed up the vaccination programme. Well, it's a thought echoed by the former Director of Immunisation for the Department of Health, Professor David Salisbury, who joins me now. Professor Salisbury, very good to have you with us today on BBC News. So tell us about how you would like to see the vaccination programme accelerated.
Well, I think we have to save as many lives as we possibly can, as fast as we can, using the vaccines that are available to us. And the evidence that a second dose of the Pfizer vaccine actually confers very much benefit is not there. So I think that we should be giving as many first doses to as many people in risk groups as we can, and only after we've done that do we come back with second doses on a delayed basis.
Okay, so why do you say the evidence isn't there that a second dose really improves the benefits for someone getting this vaccination?
Well, it does appear from the publication from the Pfizer group that the first dose of vaccine conferred 91% protection, and the second dose only took it obviously to a bit higher, 95%. So the benefit was only 4%. If you have 1 million people getting 2 doses, you protect 950,000 of them. If you have 2 million people getting 1 dose, you protect 1,800,000. I think that's pretty clear.
Now, you alluded to that first dose, 1 dose of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine giving 91% protection, but a Pfizer representative speaking to the New York Times has said that it's around 52% protection from that first dose. That's quite a discrepancy. So where does that figure of 91% come from?
Yeah, well, if you look in the New England Journal of Medicine paper, it shows that the protection from the time of the first dose to the time of the second dose is 51%. However, that includes a period when you're not protected at all from the vaccine. If you look at the period from, and it's in the paper, from roughly 10 days after the first dose to a week after the second dose, which is the real protection from the first dose, that's 91%.
Okay, so that protection builds then, not huge protection, although, 52%, 51% is better than nothing clearly, immediately after that first jab, but then the protection grows, you're saying, in the days after that injection.
Well, if you take the period from the time of the first dose up to the time of the second dose, when you're not getting any protection for the first week or 10 days from that first dose, you get 51%. But if you take the time period from when you start getting protection from the first dose until you start getting protection from the second dose, it's 91%. That's in the paper.
So why do you think the people behind the Pfizer-BioNTech jab didn't recommend that this was the way it was rolled out? Presumably they've thought about this and they've discussed this.
Well, it depends on the way in which they undertook the clinical trial. And the clinical trial was very formalized so that you give 1 dose on day 0, you give the second dose 3 weeks later, day 21, and you stick to that regime. And that's where you get your efficacy data from. However, operationally, and given the circumstances that we are facing with a rapidly expanding number of cases spreading through the country, we have to do what we can to save as many lives as we possibly can, as quickly as we can, and therefore giving second doses only gives a marginal benefit compared with the benefit you get from giving more people first doses. We've done this before.
And not comparing like for like clearly, but in terms of percentages, 91% efficacy, how does that compare to vaccines for other diseases, other conditions?
Oh, 91% is a fantastic figure. I mean, if that's what we've got, that's fantastic.
And We don't know if there are going to be any issues with the rollout of the vaccination programme, but if there were issues that were being identified, do you think the government would consider this change of tack?
I'm sure that every approach is going to be considered very carefully by the government, given the circumstances that we are facing right now. And I do believe this is a way to save more lives more quickly, and I'm sure it will be given very full consideration by the government.
Okay, Professor David Salisbury.